Going live. Okay.
Do I need to introduce you guys?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we'll do our. Okay. Hi everyone. This feels a little bit like the last day of school, where some people have made their way out of here. You guys are post Big Bash. It's the afternoon on Friday. You're looking forward to going home. You're a little bit tired. So thank you guys for coming and hearing us speak. We're going to start with, I'm Dr. Katie Schaefer. This is my partner in crime.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anna Groby.
And we think you guys know a little bit about our practice. We are from Bloom Pediatrics, and today we're going to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about what Bloom does when we're back at home and we're not starring in a music video for PCC, because I think that's often how many of you have come to know us, that we make music videos, but as it turns out, we also have a pediatric office. We have 3 locations in Metro Detroit. We have an office in Birmingham, Michigan, which is a relatively affluent community. We have an office in Southfield, Michigan, which is a little less affluent, bordering Detroit. And 3 months ago, we opened a practice in the city of Detroit, which is about a 90% Medicaid practice. So we do more than make music videos. We have about 126 employees. And we have, which is comprised, of course, of medical assistants, front desk staff, a billing team, but also we have 26 clinicians, which is split evenly between 13 physicians and 13 nurse practitioners. We also employ 2 mental health clinicians and a lactation consultant. This is our going on almost 6th year with PCC. And we are also clients of PEDS 1. So some of you may know them or be their clients. We are also PEDS 1 clients. And Dr. Groby and I are the 2 partners in the practice. We do not have any other financial or voting partners in our practice. All of our other clinicians are all employed. So a little bit different, I think, than some of the other practices that are out there. And we feel blessed that we only have to make decisions among the 2 of us. Not only are we business partners, we've also been friends for about 20 years. So we've been through our own versions of friendship and business partners, but that just kind of lays a little bit of the groundwork for who we are. And what we thought we'd do today is just tell you a little bit about why we think our practice has been successful, why we think that we've been able to create a culture in our practice that allows us to do a lot of the things that we're going to tell you about what we do, or maybe you've heard that we do, and we thought that we might help you understand the framework within which we do that.
And hopefully give you the opportunity to take some notes or some little bit home to your own practice and ask us questions. How did we start? How did we accomplish it? And sort of help you navigate maybe where your office could go.
5 years ago, our practice had 4 clinicians and 1 location. So that gives you a sense of where you can go. So if you all are feeling like, well, we're just 2 providers or 3 providers or 1 provider, that doesn't mean that you can't accomplish things, and it doesn't mean that you can't grow. And we're hopeful that you'll relate in some way and take some of this back home. Just one little thing to kind of set this up. This photo was taken. We do a monthly visit at a homeless shelter called COTS, and this opportunity sort of happened on accident. And I think the reason that it happened is has a lot to do with our culture and our willingness to say yes to things. So if you take nothing more away from this talk than the opportunity to say yes when it doesn't always feel exactly comfortable, you may open up a door and you don't have any idea where that will lead. I'll let Dr. Groby tell the story of the first opportunity we had to work outside of our office, which was during the COVID pandemic, when the health department called us in March of 2021 and asked if we could give 1,200 COVID vaccines in 2 weeks.
So we had been begging to give COVID vaccines, and at the time it was only the hospitals, only the large institutions. It hadn't even hit, the pharmacies or anywhere else. We had asked and asked and asked. We were ready. And then we got the phone call from the local health department, and they called Dr. Schaefer's cell phone, who happened, I think, to actually be in a patient room at the time. She stepped out, she answered the phone call, and they said, we have COVID vaccine ready for you, but you have to give 1,200 doses in less than 2 weeks. Can you accommodate that? And so I happened to be sitting with one of the managers, and she flew into the office and said, I have the health department on the phone, and they have COVID vaccine for us, and can we give 1,200 doses in less than 2 weeks?
And she said, yes, a shot in your arm, a shot in your arm, a shot in your arm. And so we said yes. Even though we had no idea how in the world we were possibly going to give 1,200 COVID vaccines in 2 weeks, in addition to the work that we were already doing in the office. Remember, this is now April of 2021. Things were starting to get a little bit busier, and I thought to myself, well, we give 1,200 vaccines in a week, but this is an additional 1,200 vaccines that we have to give over this course of a 2-week period. And so that was the first instance. So talk about a global health pandemic kind of like really turning the curve of our practice. That was the first time that we said yes, even though we had no idea. We had no plan. We had no idea how we were going to do it. But collectively, we said yes.
And the lore on the street, I heard this last night, was that I always say no, which is not true. I generally say yes, but how are we going to accomplish that, right? Yes, and is actually what you're supposed to say, but in my mind, it's usually yes, but how are we going to make this happen? But I was being flexible at the time, and I knew it was important, and I knew we could make it work.
So this photo, this came a couple of years later, after we had gone out of the office and done COVID vaccines at schools. After all of this kind of played out, a friend reached out to me and said, there is a local homeless shelter that is having trouble getting kids vaccinated. Do you still have the vaccine machine? And I said yes. And she said, will you give VFC vaccines or just private vaccines? I said, we'll give whatever vaccines we can give. And they said, well, could you go tomorrow? So that was another instance of saying yes, because we knew the need was so great. We had been out of the office with flu and COVID vaccines. We had never walked out of our office with MMR, varicella, HPV, Tdap. Those vaccines had never left the walls of our office. But there was a need. The director of the homeless shelter said to me, these kids are going to get kicked out of school if they don't have their vaccines up to date. And sure enough, we showed up the next day. So this photo is the team of people that we take to the shelter. We go the third Thursday of every month. And oftentimes people ask, well, how do you do it? I've invited people to come to our practice on the days that we do this. How do you do it? And to be quite honest, it takes about 6 hours of our time to go to the shelter on the third Thursday of every month. We start packing the van. Some of our medical assistants start packing the van around 1 o'clock. The vaccine team curates the vaccines out of the fridge, which we've gotten to the point now where we just dump all of our VFC vaccines into a cooler because we never know what vaccines we're going to give when we're there. We have kids sign up, and sometimes we give 2 vaccines, and sometimes we give 45. And we just have no idea what we're going to get when we go there. So it used to be we counted them, exactly how many we thought we needed, plus 20%, and now we just empty the fridge and take it with us while we go. But we leave, that process starts about 1 o'clock. We arrive to the shelter at 3 o'clock, and we're usually packing up out of the shelter at 6 o'clock. So really, the amount of time that anyone is out of the office is very short once you have the process going. So it's really not hard to leave your office. You just have to have the will and the opportunity to want to do it. And so this is one photo of us there. We've now partnered with the local medical school and also the residents from the local children's hospital, and they come along. So they help serve as entertainers. The residents are able to do physical exams on the kids. So we usually take 1 or 2 providers, myself and a nurse practitioner or another doc. But sometimes we have 30 or pediatric residents from the hospital that come with us, and they know what they're doing. So anyway, we thought that this was just a good kind of introduction to, it's not always organized. In fact, it's often not planned. But if you can find yourself saying yes, these are the types of things that will come about.
So this is a Lego emoji. I don't know if that's a word. A representation of sort of like the different mindsets. So I'm Dr. Bach. So just like you see in the depiction, right? Slightly more organized, slightly more stand-up-ish. The colors are not quite in rainbow order, which is what I would have preferred, but AI wouldn't do it for us.
And you know, basically, Dr. Groby and I have, over the course of our relationship and being owners of the practice, we've been called mom and dad, we've been called good cop, bad cop, and we have really tried to encourage our staff to not pit us that way against each other. Like what we've learned to do over time is appreciate each other's differences and the strengths that we bring and the weaknesses that we have. So actually this kind of like Dr. Block, Dr. Brick sort of works. It doesn't really mean anything, you know. But you can imagine the connotation that comes with mom or dad or good cop, bad cop. And that does not contribute to good culture in the office. And so we have deliberately asked the staff, please stop referring to us as good cop, bad cop. But you know, Dr. Groby is extremely meticulous. She's exceedingly reliable. Has a different version of ADD than I have, if she has any at all. Really good at task-oriented things, things that need to get done on time. I know the things that my staff sends to her because they know that I'm not likely to do it. We don't always talk about it, but you know, like even yesterday, I was like, I didn't know that was sent. She's like, yeah, she sends that list to me. I was like, oh. So the idea is that you don't have to be the same. You know, people, like Owen said to me today, like, does Dr. Schaefer ever sleep? Turns out I do sleep, and I proved it to my staff with my new Oura Ring stats that I do sleep. We just operate differently. And you'll see later in the talk, like, sort of what that looks like. If you came into my house, you might understand that, like, you can't find a horizontal surface potentially in my house, you know, but that's the way I operate, and we think we're complementary to one another.
As opposed to how I would describe Dr. Schaefer as very creative, a super visionary. She can find a solution to a problem in a way that no one else would ever think of doing, and she'll throw some glitter on it to make it extra sparkly.
So, all right. So that's the real life version of Dr. Brick and Dr. Black. A little bit just to kind of hone in on the fact that even though we approach things very differently, our mission is the same. We are very much aligned in our mission, and that is we want to have a really amazing pediatric practice. We want to take the best care of kids that we can. We want to vaccinate the entire community. So if we are given an opportunity to vaccinate anywhere, the answer is always yes. And so we build that culture differently, but with the same mission and values.
And we want to have an awesome place for people to work where they want to work, and future generations will continue to want to work with us.
And so we want to talk a little bit about, there have been a few talks about culture. Chip talks a lot about culture. Dr. Chung talked a lot about culture, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart. We talk about it at our monthly staff meetings. There is a slide in our monthly staff meetings about culture. And the thing about culture in your practice is that it spreads to everybody, okay? So your culture is experienced by your patients, it's experienced by your staff, and it's experienced by the community. And so I liken it to if you had a bowl of water and you put a drop of food coloring in the water. There's no way that food coloring isn't going to color the water all red or all green or all blue. And so whatever color that drop is, that is what colors all of the water. And so all of these elements of your practice are a part of that, you know. And so one way that our patients feel it has to do with you know, we are out in our community. If our patients ask us to sponsor the girls softball team, the boys hockey team, the Little League baseball team,
the robotics club, Motor City Pride.
Yeah, we say yes. And that shows our patients that we're willing to support them in ways outside of the office, that, you know, our practice is not driven by just generating revenue by seeing patients. We want to give some of that back to the community. And one of the things that people often ask us is, well, how do you pay for all of this, you know? And I'll tell you that when our practice was much smaller, the 2 physician owners in our practice made a lot more money than we do, like 3.5 times more money than we make. And the reason is that we put that money and we put it back into our practice. We put it back into the community. We give it back to our patients in ways that support them. When the patients feel it, all of our flu clinics that we do are themed. So when you come for a weekend flu clinic at our office, you're not just getting your shot. You're tie-dyeing a shirt. You're meeting, a reindeer in the winter. You're taking home a pumpkin. You're
getting ice cream. You're getting seen by a balloon artist that'll make you a balloon dog. Right. So sometimes we do food, which, I know not all offices can, but we'll do cookies, we'll do donuts. We try to make it, a reward for the whole family for coming, because we do feel it's important that they come to us as opposed to like the big box stores or their pharmacy or even the health department. We want the whole family vaccinated, and we want them to want to come to us, and we want it to be a positive experience. Nothing fixes a kid better than like a sucker, a sticker, or a donut.
Right. And I'll tell you that idea came from the number of parents that when we would talk about flu clinics and getting flu vaccine, and the number of times I heard, well, we're going to go to Target because they give us a $5 gift card. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to do better than a $5 gift card from Target. We want our patients in our office. And so what can we do to make it attractive for our patients to come to us for their flu vaccine? The more we can keep our patients with us, out of urgent care, out of Target and Walgreens and all of these other places that are just like these big monsters that are trying to come for us, So we do the things to try and keep our patients in our office.
And the patients feel it. The patients feel the culture, and they want to be part of it. And sort of the next slide will illustrate.
We'll talk about the staff a little bit.
Yeah. So that will sort of illustrate, everyone sort of feels it in our community and wants to be part of Bloom. And they know that if they come to us with a need, we will try to meet that need.
And then our staff, of course, people often ask if they can come see our office, like, can we come to your office? And anyone is welcome to come to our office any day, but I always wonder if you would be intrigued at all. Lynn's been in our office, because really, our office on a Monday is seeing 250 patients. We're doing the work that everybody else is doing. We're talking to the crabby parent on the phone, the mom that showed up at the wrong time for her appointment, the dad who had a bad day and is crabbing at the front desk, whatever it might be. So that's typically what we're doing. But if there is any reason that any one of you ever wanted to come and see it, I think the way the staff live in it is that they know that when they ask for something, that we're likely to say yes. If they have an idea, we're likely to say yes. Sometimes we have to say not today, maybe next year, or not today. In a couple months, we'll consider that. But our staff knows that they can trust us when we say we want to hear from you, we want to know what you think. That we will execute on their demands as well, because they're told once a month at least, if not more, that there is no way that the work that we do in our office could be done without them. And I think you all know that. We are the clinicians who see the patients, but there's no chance that we could run an office without people to answer the phone, people to send the charts out, people to fight with insurance companies, people to give vaccinations, so we can move on and do what we do. And because we're so involved in the community then reaches out to us to say, could you come to this event? And what's happened over time is, like, we don't have to ask anymore. We don't have to look for things. People come to us. In fact, the most profound observation of this was there were some schools in the community that were missing their vaccine compliance. The schools get money when their students are compliant with their school-required vaccines versus having a waiver signed. And the health department called us and asked if we could go to the schools to give vaccines. And my vaccine coordinator, Angie, raise your hand, is sitting here in the front row. And I looked at Angie and I said, the health department is calling us? This just feels a little bit backwards, but it's an example of how the community at large has learned to trust us to do this work. So, yeah.
So oftentimes we get asked, how do you do it? How do you get the staff engaged? How do you get people to show up? So this specific picture was taken, we had presents to wrap. So because the community knows we are so engaged and involved, we basically said to the patients in a very quiet way, I think we put posters, little flyers up in some of the rooms and said, we'll do it. We're doing a toy drive for the homeless shelter for these children that are unsheltered or have temporary housing that otherwise maybe wouldn't have Christmas. And so we very softly put the call out to our patients, and they answered. So they filled our entire lobby full of presents. Well, Christmas isn't Christmas unless the presents are wrapped. So we said to the staff, let's get together and let's wrap these presents for these kids. And this is the amount of staff members that showed up. Now, we do value their time and we pay for their time, so they know that when they do come, they will get paid for the activity, whether it's something like wrapping presents in this instance, or it's going to the city parade, or it's handing out popcorn at the movie nights, right? The staff is very valued for the time that they do spend with us, but this is just one example where the community answered our very quiet call to help have Christmas presents for these children, and these are the staff members that showed up and helped us wrap those presents.
And a question came up recently because we do probably 4 or 5 events, just community events every month in the office. And a question came up. We have a very strict attendance policy. So we have like a point system. Some of you may have heard me talk about our point system that we have. And the question came up, does an employee get an attendance point if they don't show up to an event? So like, for example, they call in when they're working with Dr. Castro at the office, that is considered a point. Do they get that same point if they call in for their shift at movie night? And the answer was yes. Yeah, because all of those things that we do require the support of our staff. So if we have 6 people signed up to go to movie night to hand out popcorn and greet the kids and show off our business, and someone doesn't show up, that's one less person to do that work. So because we value their time and they're paid for their time, we also tell them we expect them to be there. And so if they're not going to show up, whether it's a shift to work at the office and see patients and generate revenue, or it's to go hand out popcorn, we treat them both the same. And so what that tells our staff is that we value both of these things equally. Because that's come up in talks I've done before. Well, do you pay your staff for this time? And we absolutely do. Their time is valuable, and the younger they are, the more valuable they think their time is, we've learned. They're growing up in a culture where this like life-work balance situation is a little different than ours. We have one clinician in our practice who is in her mid-60s, and she is just she's like, what is going on with these kids? And we're trying to explain to her that it's a different generation that we're working with, and we have to understand. She and I think we have a pretty good work ethic, and we have to sometimes kind of like beat our heads together and say, but this is what these are our employees. They are 20-something years old, and this is their expectation. So. But I think like this is a testament to and those are, I think, at least one of my kids on the floor doing like a gang sign, I'm not sure. But kids are welcome to come, so we invite the family members to come, and so it allows our staff and their kids to experience, giving in this instance, where you're literally just, and I had to tell my one son who likes a thing, like, Elliot, these things are not for you. These things are for somebody else, So that's just one example. And also, this is another example where Soup City is the fundraising event for the shelter. So, you donate money to be able to go to this fundraising event. And I put this picture in there because in this picture is two physicians, someone from the front desk, and 2 of my nurses. And so, we invite anyone to come. Anyone want to come to the Cot Soup City event? We'll pay for your ticket. We'd love for you to come. You got to get a little bit dressed up. And we're able to kind of hang out with each other in a way that we don't hang out in the office. Sarah from our front desk, she and I don't go out on Friday nights together, but we went out on that Friday night together, and I think we look like we're having fun. So anyway, so the more you step out of your office and give yourself these opportunities, you will have these opportunities to engage with your staff. So, okay.
So how do we get there?
Yeah. So, PCC did this amazing job of creating this theme for this conference. It seems every year more and more the theme becomes sort of enveloped into the conference. And so we thought there was actually a pretty good metaphor for the pediatric practice as building a Lego. How many of you in here love to build a Lego? Okay, most of you. So, and if you haven't tried since you were a kid, try, because I had this bin of Legos when I was a kid that was like primary colored. There were no books, and I didn't necessarily know what to do with them. But guess what? It comes with an instruction manual, and that is one instance where I actually like to use the book to build, and then my 9-year-old son finds my mistakes. So, we thought this might be a good representation of what your practice might look like on a Monday morning. Things might have fallen apart over the weekend. It seems like we can't figure it out. I don't know if you guys have figured it out. Like, why do Mondays always feel so crazy? Our office is open on Sunday. It's not like we've been closed for 2 days. We're open 7 days a week. And yeah, it turns out that Monday just always feels crazy. So if anyone has the answer to that, Lynn, maybe Lynn. Lynn's very omniscient, so maybe she knows why Mondays always feel crazy.
So now that we have our big Lego bin, we have the components in order to make what we're going to build, which is our office, our practice, our culture, right? And there's multiple components that are needed. So we look at the strategy much like the instruction book, which I very much like. That's where I live, is with the instructions. I like a list, I like a manual, I like to know, and I like to know where the end point is, right? Because you can build and build and build and build, but if you don't know what the finished product is eventually going to be, that's also part of the struggle. And then we look at the bricks as all the pieces, the components, right? So it can be the people, it can be your staff members, it can be your patients, your families, and of course it's where you're going with that, and the values that you hold in the office. So where do you place the value? Is it on the people? Is it on the work experience? Is it on the patients and what they feel when they walk into your office? So all of that factors in to as you're building your mission.
And then we think, the finished product kind of represents like sort of what the whole culture is in your practice. And so, and all of that relates back to having really well-defined values, so you understand where you're going. If your value is to have the highest vaccination rates, okay, well then that's where, when you start answering questions and start saying yes, those are the things you're going to start saying yes to. One of our values is being a trusted source in the community. So, and that's not just like patients refer to our office, it's that like people want to see us places. They trust us to go give vaccines. They trust us to give talks on vaccines or things that are happening in healthcare. And the spilled out Lego bin that actually is at my house. And I think I left, and because we took this picture, and I think I left and it was still on the floor like that. So hopefully someone's cleaned it up since I've been gone. But the idea is that, you have all different kinds of pieces to work with. There's lots of different ways to put this puzzle together. You can look at it our way, but you can take little pieces of what we say, and it won't fit into every practice. It won't work for everyone. If you don't have a large team of people, you're not going to be able to, take 9 people to a movie night on a Friday night. If you have a small staff, you do something smaller. You take fewer people. But what we want, what I would love for you to take home is that to let creativity like seep into your practice a little bit. We're all scientists at heart, but a little bit of creativity in the office can lend itself to to some really awesome things happening. So.
That's me. Okay. So where do we start, right? So we talk about the foundation. So I very recently learned the big flat Lego piece is called the base plate. And so you need the base plate in order to build the Lego. It needs something to stick on, or your foundation might not work, or you might not be able to hold it. You can't start at the roof, right? Despite the fact we very much feel like culture starts at the top, and we have to embody culture, and we have to be willing to do every single job, and we have to not be asking our staff to do something that we wouldn't do ourselves, right? But in order to make anything work, we have to have a strong foundation. And so where do you start? You start with the people, you start with the idea, you start with, where we're gonna go.
Yeah, and understanding, I know, Chip talks about like making sure you understand what your values are. And I think, spending some time to brainstorm what are the values in your practice. Like that, you have to start there. And I think ours are, I don't know that we've written them down, to be quite honest. There's been some, this is my staff here in the front row. There's been some suggestion to us, let's write them down. But I think like ours is so like mixed into the culture that if you picked out like a few words, like Dr. Groby and I did this a little bit this morning, that it's like, it's comprehensive, up-to-date community care where we have a lot of fun. The word fun is in our values, that's probably not in most people's values, but for me, if someone walks into our office and the words come out of their mouth, that was so fun, that is like 100%, there's a 100% chance that we will do that again. So if anyone says to me, if you're in earshot of me and I hear that was fun, we're gonna do it again. So these guys are laughing because that is very true. So fun is a part of our values. So if you value fun, then that should be a part of your values. And when you do things in your office, you should add that element into what you do. So that's not important to everybody, but whatever it is that is important to you or makes your heart full or makes you smile or makes you feel fulfilled. And for me, when someone says that was fun, like my heart just like explodes. So, and then, you have to have a shared language in your culture. So this neon sign hangs in 2 of our 3 offices. So there is no chance that the staff sees this. The patients do not see this, but the staff sees this neon sign. And if you can't read it, it says the answer is yes. What is the question? And we try and make sure that our staff operates this way first. And what we tell the front desk is, if a patient calls and says, I want an appointment at this time, instead of saying no, I can't give you an appointment at that time, say, well, yes, we can see you today. We can see you at the following, 8 times or whatever, because that's how it seems you have to do it. Like give 12 different examples. Sorry, Lynn, but we do give like 12 opportunities for them to come in. But the staff knows that if they ask us to do something, we're likely to say yes, and they've turned this around on me. Like the staff has come to me to ask for something absurd. Not absurd like take us on a cruise absurd, but like
reindeer.
Like reindeer.
In the parking lot.
Melissa's heart explodes when we have reindeer encounters at the office. So we have reindeer encounters at the office. And sometimes, the staff will come to me and they're like, Dr. Schaefer, the answer is yes, So, and while we don't always say like 100% yes to everything, this tells me that the staff is hearing this. The staff operates by this mantra. And if any of you is familiar with the sort of yes and sort of way of doing things, which is sort of like an improv type of thing, that you can go a lot further when you say yes and than when you say no but or even yes but. And Sandy did a really awesome experience at a conference that I was at where you were planning a vacation with a bunch of people, and it was like, we're gonna go to, the Caribbean. And you plan that vacation by saying, yes, but. And then you do that same exercise and you plan the vacation and everybody says yes and. So yes, but I don't have any bathing suits at home. And then someone else says yes, and I got this amazing dress that I want to wear, or whatever, okay? So try that exercise with a few of your staff and see the difference in the way the conversation operates when people operate with a yes and type of mentality and when they operate with a yes but, okay? Because the but limits you, okay? It sets parameters. And Dr. Groby's a perfect example of like sometimes you need that, but if you can imagine the positivity that comes with yes and, you will see that it's an amazing exercise. I don't want to steal like Sandy's idea, but I took that back to our staff. We actually did it at a staff meeting. I made the staff all get together and they planned their vacation with those 2 types of mentalities. And it was profound, the difference in just the conversation that you heard. Even when they were planning it, the staff was like more excited when they were saying yes and what else they were going to do. So you don't have to have a neon sign, although I highly recommend it. But this is posted in our office. There's no way you can ignore it. So make sure that whatever it is you want your staff to hear, if it's not obvious in the way you operate, write it down. And I stole this from a restaurant, actually. Dr. Groby and I were out to dinner, and we were at one of those restaurants where you could see into the kitchen, you know?
Open concept.
Open concept, thank you. And plastered in the kitchen was this phrase. And I suspect that the owner of that restaurant, you know, a restaurant is a customer service business, right? And so when a customer asks for something, you know, they want their food different, they want this, they want it to be that way, it's better to say yes and, right?
So where do we start? So this is another beautiful example of our staff. This is actually happens to be at a staff meeting. So these are just some of our bricks that help build our foundation and help build the walls in our office. And so, you know, why are they all dressed the same? Everyone wants to belong. Everyone wants to contribute. Everyone wants to sort of help to build the house, if we'll call it that. So this is an example where everyone's in the same t-shirt. This is something we do at our office. Not that you have to copy this, but it makes everyone feel like they're part of the team. Everyone wants to sort of belong. No one wants to be the odd man out. So in our case, we all happen to wear a bit of a dress code. We have different t-shirts assigned to different days. But this is one example where you feel very unified. You feel like you have a common core, you have a common mission, we have common values, and we all look like we're a team, which is fun. We often talk about we're all in a boat and we have to row the boat together. And this is just another way to sort of visually represent that we're all on the team, we're all on the crew, and we're all going to row this same boat together. And our message is pretty pervasive to the families as well. This specific shirt, if you can't read it, does say Vaccine Squad in the MASH sort of.
There's a nod to MASH.
A nod to MASH. Any of you old enough in the audience to remember that TV show? But we have different from fun T-shirts because we like a good T-shirt, and everyone sort of looks somewhat uniform, working toward the same goal, much like a team would.
And if you can think about that with your staff, if you have an employee who, if you think of the boat analogy is a really good one, you know, if you have an employee who you know, kind of is rowing the boat in a different direction, or they drop their paddle, you know, that guy's just adding weight to the boat at that point. So the boat analogy really works, and if you can apply that, you know, that we're all rowing in the same direction, if we got one guy going the different way, or who drops their paddle, or who is, you know, socializing in the back and not rowing, then you know, then maybe they don't belong on your team, or maybe they don't belong in that particular boat. You know, you could give different parts of your practice of different boats, you know, and maybe that guy should be rowing in a different boat with different people. Maybe if you put that guy with a different group of people, they may behave differently and they may row faster. Maybe they'll be in competition with someone. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but the boat analogy really does work. And then, you know, just like you can't really build a Lego with just a single brick, you know, you need lots of components. They need to be shaped different ways. They need to be different colors. You know, no single staff member defines the practice. Dr. Groby and I do not only define our practice. We invite commentary from our leadership team. We invite commentary from our custodians, from our MAs, from our front desk staff. So everybody has a place and a voice. A couple of ways we allow those voices to be heard. We have a monthly staff meeting that is mandatory, and it's mandatory in person with the exception of they can attend virtually twice, which broke my heart a small bit when we agreed to do it virtually. But if you can imagine, we're in a room about this big. Our team is 126 people, and we divide that staff meeting up into a Monday morning 7 a.m. and a Monday evening or Wednesday evening 7 p.m. So we have 2 staff meetings in that week. They have to attend one in person, or they can attend 2 in a year virtually. But that staff meeting, the reason I think the staff meeting is so important is sometimes it's the only time that I get to see the whole crew all in one place. We have 3 locations, so everybody is spread out. And that staff meeting allows us to have everybody in one space. And that staff meeting allows a staff member to raise their hand and say, hey, I had this problem, how do we fix it? Or, you know, an example is we had an MA, we were talking about being green and getting rid of paper and, you know, making everything digital and always using the portal and not printing the health appraisal form and, you know, really trying to like cut down on the amount of paper that we use. And we had an employee raise her hand in the back, you know, with this kind of attitude. And she's like, well, if y'all are so green, like, why do we still use table paper? And that had never even crossed our minds. Like, we were using table paper. filling the trash cans with table paper every day. I mean, having to switch them out halfway through the day because the table paper was taking up so much room. And yet here we were, like, not printing paper, but we were storing paper, we were buying paper, and we were rolling it out on a table every day. And when that staff member said that, we went back to the management team and we're like, why do we use paper? You know, could we take it away? And then we mourn for the 6-month-olds, you know, that like to play with it and that they might have something else, you know. There's nothing better, right, when you walk in a 6 or 8-month-old, like, tearing up all the paper and they're having so much fun. But we don't use table paper, and we haven't since she said that. And for a minute, we put up signs in the office that said, you know, we told a story of where the table paper went. Nobody asked a question. Nobody batted an eye. Sometimes they will bring a little blanket to lay down, or they'll put a t-shirt down or something if they're weirded out by the plain table. But to be honest, most parents will lay their baby on a clean table, and they don't have any issue with it. So that's one example of our staff giving us ideas. We had an NP who, when we opened our Detroit office, really wanted to make little toiletry kits for the teenagers that were coming in. These are patients that don't have a lot of resources. You know, she was worried about their basic hygiene, and I had nothing to do with it. I said, you know, you tell me what you want to put in it. We got little toiletry kits with our logo branded on it. I think the total volume, or the total cost of all the stuff she ordered was like $286. You know, it was $286. She bought toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant. I can't remember all the things that were in it, but, you know, such a little thing. But, you know, she had an idea, and we said yes, you know, and then she felt empowered. So, you know, so one of the things that, you know, we wonder as two solo, you know, partners in a practice with a lot of employed clinicians is, will we be able to maintain this without people knocking on the door saying, like, we want to be partners too? But we think that by allowing the clinicians and the, you know, the front desk staff, et cetera, to have a voice. So even though you know, they don't have any, you know, financial incentive of being a partner or voting rights, they are able to give an idea, and we say yes. Another provider wanted to do a toy drive. This was before we did the one for the shelter. We said yes. Another one wants to make a handbook for the new, we hired a bunch of new residents, and she wanted to make a handbook for the new clinicians to just kind of say, like, the kind of general way we handle things. You know, like, every provider in our office has full autonomy how they want to practice, but you know, and we said yes. You know, so allowing the space for people to have a voice. So the staff meeting is one way. We do an annual review of all of our employees, and that's another opportunity for them to give us feedback of something that they want to hear. And that can come from any one person in the office. I'm trying to think if Tracy or Andre has ever asked for anything, but or advocated for anything in particular. But those are our two custodians. But anyone has access to us. The staff meeting is kind of a low. No one has to come knock on our door. We don't even have an office, to be quite honest. So there is no door to knock on to talk to us. But the staff meeting is an opportunity for the staff to have FaceTime with us once a month. So.
And sometimes they don't even ask for our permission. They come up with creative ideas all by themselves.
So, so this is a picture of. So I like balloons. Some of you may know that, and so pretty much at any event we have, we make a balloon arch. Almost our entire front desk staff knows how to make a balloon arch now. Okay, and I have to give Erin our credit for this one, because she sent me a picture of this beach ball balloon arch that was at someone's pool and said, you should do this. And all I did was show it to my staff one day. I said, isn't this cool? Like, that's all I said. I didn't say make one, or I said, isn't this cool? And we did an event at the park. Our community has a parade, and they have a party in the park, and we're one of the sponsors. And at that particular event, we decided to give out beach balls with our logo on them. And they made this beach ball balloon arch. I showed them the picture, and the next picture I got was like 3 weeks later of them building that, you know, and so that's because they didn't have to ask. They knew Dr. Schaefer would love a beach ball balloon arch. She showed us it. I didn't have to tell them how to do it. You know, they had a budget to buy some balloons or beach balls from Amazon, and they had fun doing it. And I don't have the picture in here of one of our staff, like, with the bag of the beach balls standing next to her. She was so pleased, you know, with this bag of beach balls. This is so simple. This doesn't cost a lot of money. but this team worked together to do this. They knew they were pleasing me because they were erecting an arch out of beach balls, so they knew that I would be happy. But what is amazing to me as a leader is that I didn't have to ask for this to be done. It's just that it's understood that no one's going to get in trouble for buying the beach balls. No one's going to tell them they did it wrong. Sometimes I do, but not usually. And they were pleased, like they were proud to show us what they'd done, and then they're doing something creative. Even I examined it. How did they get the beach balls strung together? How they use the little the guy to close the beach ball. That's where they put the loop of the thread through to keep it closed, because beach balls don't have anywhere to attach anything. But they figured it out. So this is just an example of people working together, and if you give them the space and the opportunity for them to do that, I'm sure your community has a parade, a party, some kind of community event. We live in Michigan. The opportunity to do things outside does not come very often. We have from May to September to do things outside, kind of like here in Vermont. And so I would encourage you, put one of your staff members, find a community event for us to go to. And if they want to know how to make a beach ball balloon arch, we know some people that can teach them how to do it.
Sometimes it's as simple as a fun run at an elementary school. A lot of the elementary schools do field day or a fun run. They often will just take a volunteer. Sometimes the cost is very, very minimal. It's just, will you show up and run our Band-Aid station? Will you be there, if we need some medical support? And if you show up, you can set up a table. And if you set up a table, you can bring fun Band-Aids, or you can bring, ice packs, or you can bring branded beach balls, because they make those.
I was mildly worried that the city would be freaked out by the Bloom Pediatrics beach balls being all over the park, but turns out everyone took them home. So. And then, just a little, just kind of to reiterate, that our involvement in the community, we think, really helps reach people in different ways. And how do people sign up for these events? So we have, is the Sign Up Genius? How are they doing it now? Oh, When I Work.
It's a shift posted in our scheduling platform.
So I don't know what kind of scheduling platform. We use something called When I Work. That's where all of their shifts are for when they work with a doctor as an MA or at the front desk, what their shift is for the front desk. And these events are in there, they can sign up for it just like a shift of work. So
this also gives them the opportunity to have a lot of control over their schedule. We have a fair amount of younger employees that are often part-time. They have school, they have families, they have other obligations. So in this case, they can pick up extra work where they want to, and it's not always work in our 4 office walls or 16 office walls, right? It's, out in the community. It might be the elementary school they went to. It might be the community they live in. So it gives them a chance to give back to their community as well, and to do something fun, and to do non-medical work like hand out popcorn or blow up beach balls. The kids in the community love to see the nurse that gave them shots in the office, giving them a beach ball or giving them a balloon instead of just poking them.
They love seeing providers out. I mean, we're at these events, I'm Dr. Groby's back has turned to me, and some kid is they see her, that she's out of the office. I'm like, Dr. Groby, you have, a fan over here to come talk to, and your patients love seeing you out of the office, So, and another event that we did, like Groby alluded to it earlier, one of our staff, asked us if we would support the Motor City Pride event, this wasn't an event for kids. It was the Pride event in Detroit, and it was important to him, and we want to support that community as much as we can. And so the answer was yes, and it was 2 12-hour days at this event. But we were visited by one of our senators, Alyssa Slotkin. She stopped by. At that event, we had several providers. We had Dr. Groby was there. We had medical assistants. And people where that community is important to them. They were able to feel supported by our business, our patients. That have that the parents themselves, are a part of that community, or they have kids that are. That's one way that we show them that we support. We have a sign on our door. Everyone is welcome here, and we mean it. And so, and that idea came from one of our nurse practitioners who said, "Can we support this event?" And so, we did.
And along with that event, it was, will you have a table versus will you build a float?
We said no to the float.
That's where I said yes, but I will be there. I will work it. I am more than happy to do this, but I will not build a float. Maybe next year.
Anyway, this is one of the movie nights, so you can see this is like a Friday night. We have Bloom Pediatrics cups. We fill them with popcorn. It is like, I think it's $8 for a big bag of popcorn. The cups are branded. They glow in the dark. You know, you scoop up popcorn and kids come and get it, and everyone's happy, and the whole park is littered with a Bloom Pediatrics cup, you know.
And
so.
in this case, not only are we able to be out in the community and seeing our families who love to see us and give them popcorn, which everyone loves free popcorn, but it's an opportunity to get your brand out there. So they do take the cup home. It ends up in your cupboard. It ends up in the kid's bathtub. It ends up, you know, at the local pool. So it's another way to sort of subtly advertise without advertising.
I actually had a patient tell me they were up in northern Michigan, which is about 4.5 hours from our practice, and they said we found a Bloom Pediatrics Frisbee on the beach, you know. So you just never know, like, how far some of these things will go, and maybe we'll open an office up north someday, and maybe they'll already know who we are. So this is the parade event. So we had 2 teams. We had one team walking in the parade, and we made kites. These were like make your own kite. So this was a huge hit. So if any of you ever needed a fun idea for kids, we had to actually break down the tent because we couldn't stop having kids come up and wanting to make a kite. And all the other like vendors that were at the park had all broken down. They had all left, and kids just kept coming up to our table wanting to. We had been there for like 6 hours, and they were still wanting to make a kite. So we actually had to like break it down, and like it was like, you know, we were gifted wind that day. So all of these kids were out, you know, and that didn't have our logo on it. It had our tent, but that was just something fun for them to do.
The kites came from Amazon. They were less than $1 each. We ordered about 600, just to help you guys put it in perspective.
Washable markers.
Yeah. You know, maybe you order 50 for your office at Flu Clinic. Maybe you order 100 for the kids that, you know, want to do it.
And just a little bit about, you know, kind of like how I operate, you know. So someone has an idea, I'm like, yeah, come on, let's go. Like, it'll be fun. You know, I say yes to almost every opportunity. It's usually unscripted when it starts. You know, Dr. Groby helps add some, you know, some boundaries to it. Spontaneous mobile clinics, you know, when they said, can you come tomorrow? The answer was yes. You know, and then it was like, oh shoot, we don't have a freezer cooler to take, you know, MMR, you know, out of the office. So we had to figure that out. So that first trip we went, like, we didn't take certain vaccines with us, you know. And in this describing sort of my style, the word mess has come up like twice. So I don't know. I guess it's a little bit that way.
And then a little more my style, which some of you might relate to, right? We need the budget. We need to anticipate how much can we spend or how much are we going to spend, right? The outreach, when's it going to happen? How many can we do? You know, how busy is everyone in order to pull it off? How much warning do we get? We do sometimes get asked, can you come tomorrow? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes, you know, we can't. We just can't be stretched that thin. So we'll say, ask us next week, or next time, you know, give us a week's notice. We can very often, because we have such a large, very flexible staff, we can often make things happen even on short notice. But a lot of us do like a timeline, and you might feel that way. You might say, I can't plan anything with less than a month's notice. You might not. You might say, I can pull anything off in 2 weeks, right? So you have to sort of navigate what feels best to you to make it not feel terrible versus what feels good. Grant proposals always have a deadline. Dr. Schaefer worked on an amazing grant, which her and Angie were able to win for our office, but they turned it in literally 29 minutes before it was due.
True.
I think they intentionally did not ask me to be part of it, because I would have been breathing down their neck several days in advance, right? But, you know, knowing that you have a guideline. Some of us work better with a deadline. Some of us work better under pressure. Some of us work better, you know, where we can navigate our own time and set up our own timeline. And then making sure everyone feels comfortable with what you're doing in terms of the timeline. Some people can't add more to their plate. There's too many plates to juggle. Some people are very flexible and can always figure something out. They can give a little more. They have a little more time. They're a little more able to navigate spontaneous situations. So knowing where you fit without making things feel terrible.
And I think, you know, ultimately what we do is we work together, you know. So, you know, even though we have two very different styles, ultimately what we're building is we're working together, building it. And just an example, you can guess whose desk this is. So if this gives you an example of the way our brains look on the inside and the outside, so this is my desk. So you can see sort of like, some of the pros to the way I operate, and there are certain weaknesses, confusing, unstable, messy. That messy word comes up again. Look at my desk. It makes sense to me, but most people walk up to my desk and are like, what is going on? This is Dr. Groby's desk. So that just gives you a sense, like it's so pervasive, and yet we have a successful, thriving practice that the two of us run together. So basically, like this is kind of how we pull that off together, right? Dr. Groby embraces chaos and I embrace order, so.
Right. So some of you sitting in the audience might be thinking of the doctors or the office managers that are in your office, like, well, this doctor would never go for this idea, or that doctor would love this idea, right? So how do you make all of the personalities that are in charge, that are able to make the decisions with you and not against you?
And, I think this middle idea here of mutual respect, that is a big deal, I have had to learn to respect the way that Dr. Groby operates because it's very distinctly different from the way that I operate. And sometimes it's frustrating to me. It feels slow, it feels rigid. And, she's frustrated by me being like, where is there going to be order to this, but understands that sometimes good things come out of saying yes to something quickly, not thinking too long. Sometimes if you think too long, the opportunity just goes, whoo, the boat just sailed right by. And you didn't have time to get in or row together, So sometimes you do just have to jump in and start rowing and figure it out as you go. And I think that the fact that we respect each other for the different ways that we operate has really helped.
And there isn't a right way or a wrong way. It's just different.
And then making sure that like every once in a while you check back in. If any of you have, you or your kids have Legos that have been built, sometimes you have to go in and dust them off. Because my son has like a shrine to Legos in his room, and there's no way anyone could clean the surface. So the only way you can do it is just kind of like blow the dust around, to clean. But every once in a while you have to go back and check in. Is this working? Are all the things we've said yes to still aligning with our culture? And then, really like we encourage you to talk to your staff, invite them in on your processes, hear from them, kind of ask them, where is the chaos in our office? Where do we have the structure? If you were to describe our office culture, what words would you use? And use that as a template for changing it or embracing it if you like the way it's described. And again, making sure that you're flexible. You're not always reading just from the book. That you're willing to be a little bit flexible. Know who your people are. Know who you can lean on.
Every staff member has different strengths. Lean to those strengths. The ones that, just like Dr. Kraft alluded to, the prickly front desk person that's going to help you, keep your patients safe and stop ice. That might be the same person that you make sure you give the ordering task to because something needs to be ordered by a deadline, so you don't have to pay rush shipping, right? Versus the person that's more creative, that's going to figure out how do we pack the van, or how do we staff a certain event, work to the strengths of the different people, because everyone does have those different strengths and every single brick does matter.
And what we'd like you to do is kind of go back, take something away from this, go back to your office and reflect on your style. We've had a lot of opportunity to do it because our styles are so distinct. Sometimes there's more of a blend. Maybe you have 8 partners in your practice who you have to play to all of their different personalities. We only have 2. Maybe you're just one, and maybe you need to find yourself a support panda who's maybe not a partner in your practice, but someone that you can trust to bounce decisions off of and to play on their strengths. And that picture is my husband and my son at one of the movie nights, and so it's an opportunity for my own kids to get out there and they stacked all the cups to see how high they could make it. So I thought that was just a good representation of.
Right. So what are you building toward? What is the culture that you want, and why? Because if you can't answer that being in this room, no one else in your staff is going to be able to answer that for you. So that's super important that you know what you want to build and then work toward building it.
And one of our favorite TCCers So if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. I don't know if any have come in online or if you're just tired. But we're available for questions anytime. I know you can communicate with us in the app. I have talked to many people this weekend about, can we come to your office? We'd love to have you.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. I'd encourage you to come on a day when we're going to the shelter, so you can see what that looks like. How does that work? At some point in the office, people start to divert from their task, and all of a sudden, someone's in the pharmacy putting all the vaccines in, and there's guys in another location packing the van. So it is a collaborative effort, but we'd love to have you, and we're happy to answer any questions.
And thank you to PCC for asking us to do this talk.
Yes.
You said you have a culture slide at every staff meeting. What's that conversation?
Yeah, it's different every time. So oftentimes it'll be some photos or a video of something that we've done together. For example, when we moved into our Detroit office, we had 60 days to open that practice. So thank you, PCC, for building our third location with 60 days notice. But one time it was a video of all the staff, we had to carry in all these boxes, and it was just all the staff working together. So I put that video in there, and I showed it to the people that weren't there to say, we didn't have to ask, and everyone was laughing and having fun, and it wasn't their job. They're not being an MA, they're not being a doctor, they're not answering the phone, they're not checking insurance. They were carrying boxes, but we didn't have to ask. We didn't hire movers. I didn't have my neighbors' sons come and carry boxes. Our staff did it, so that's one of them. Dr. Groby shared one recently.
Yeah, it's sometimes a community event we've done. Most recently, we've had a doctor that's moving out of state, and so we hosted a pizza party for her. And so we had lots of amazing pictures from that event where, even though they were booths, it was an MA, a med student, a front desk, and a doctor all sitting together chatting. And that is the perfect picture of our culture, that everyone works together and everyone respects each other and everyone shows up for each other. So it was just a reminder to our staff, yes, we're gonna miss this staff member, but look at this awesome culture of all these different people at different levels and different stages in their careers that showed up for each other. So it depends on what culture looks like to you, but the slide is usually a reminder of the positive culture. We definitely try to focus on the positive and, celebrate everyone in our office.
One time it was an example of me reading a note that I got from a family. This was actually a family of a transgendered child who was moving to the Netherlands because they think their child is going to live an easier life in the Netherlands with the political culture we have here. And it was the note that the parent wrote to me to say, thank you for supporting us. And in the message, it wasn't it was thank you and your staff for supporting us. So I read that letter to the staff to say those experiences that you have with our patients, how trivial they may seem, the fact that you were willing to use the right pronouns, the fact that you didn't act weird when you walked in the room, that when you read the notes, child is transgender or whatever, that matters. And so sometimes just reading a note that a family wrote. So it's different every time. Sometimes it's a little more academic about culture, what it means and what the words of culture mean. But sometimes it's just sharing where we think that the culture is working in our practice.
Or Google review, we often will read those, especially if they're positive. The staff doesn't always look at those, but I get the reminder when a new Google review has posted. And it's really important to give that positive feedback to our staff, and oftentimes the families will either directly or indirectly mention the culture. We felt so good, we felt so safe, we felt so supported, we felt so, right? If we ever get a thank you note, from one of the various charities or things, that we've sponsored or showed up at, the fun run we went to, if we get a thank you note, that is sometimes, our culture slide, something like that.
There's an opportunity to volunteer at an event or have something fun at flu clinic or something along those lines. It just tends to be me, and my staff is great when we're there, but they don't want to participate in other things. even if you offer to pay them. So, because they have their lives, they have their kids, they work 40 hours a week, they want to spend time with their families. How do you encourage change so that they want to participate?
Yeah, I think one thing you might do is, ask them, is there something that is important to them? Do they want to support the Humane Society, or do they want to support a pride event? Does their kid play on a sports team that you could support? Maybe ask them, is there something that makes them tick? It doesn't necessarily have to be something that will benefit your practice. I mean, going to the Pride event was an adult event, where we felt like, okay, we want to be there to show support, but it's literally just to show support to this community. That's the only reason we're there, I think we handed out, I don't know what we handed out, something fun. Sunglasses. Okay. So, maybe ask them, like, is there something that is important to you? Maybe it's not something out of the office. We're going to be doing a diaper drive, because we're trying to gather some supplies for the patients in our Detroit office. And, one of our offices is in a very affluent community. When you ask them to give, they will give, So then one of the staff's like, well, I'm going to cut out the ducks, to hang in the lobby for the parents. So give them a little something that makes their little heart tick and fills their bucket. And then they might realize, oh, this is actually fun. It's not such a burden,
The other thing is,
Tell them about like the providers, how we sometimes will do it during business hours and block their schedule.
yeah. So the other thing along those lines, bring the child. If the excuse is maybe the wrong word, I can't, I have a 6-year-old. As you saw in some of our slides, our 6-year-olds come along. Sometimes they don't wrap presents, but they'll sit on the floor and play, or they'll try to wrap a present. But we often include the families. A lot of us want our kids to do community service. We want our kids to be part of this. Melissa has a 6-year-old that often comes to things and hands out Band-Aids or hands out suckers and balloons. But if we do a fun run at a school, it's at that kid's school. So get that member. Where does your kid go to school? Do they have a fun run? Let's go to your kid's school. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you'll do that for me? I'll do that for you, right? When you value their time and what's important to them, they're often more willing to give more back to you because you valued that. So as our nurse Angie was pointing out, it is often during the day. So if it is, we're doing a medical event where we want a provider to come, we'll block their schedule. So it does take away from in-office patient care, but we want to show them that we value their time. So we have one nurse practitioner who's awesome, who has 2 itty bitties, who is more than happy to always do a community event, but she's got babies. So we tell her, great, Lindsay, you're going to do the event from 12 to 3 because we know that's when you already have childcare because you're already supposed to be in the office with us. And that's when she gets to do her events.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, well, thank you guys. We
you
hope
so
you feel
much.
energized to go back home and keep on the good work that all of us are doing. So.